Hi, good morning everyone. I'm sorry I was a bit late because for some reason the Zoom was not streaming live on Facebook, so I had to stream live from the phone. So I'm still waiting for a few people to join in, just adjusting a few technical things. Welcoming all of you to this live. This is a very special kind of live because probably this is for the first time I'm speaking about a topic which is not heard very often, okay, but yet it is a common one. We do see it, we encounter it, it's a part of our life, so we do need to address it and see that what is it that happens as a result of being Caesarean born. It will not only give you information about yourself if you happen to be a Caesarean born yourself, but also it will give you information about your own child if your child happens to be Caesarean born. It will also give you information about other people, because there are too many other people who are Caesarean born around you, or who might be delivering through Caesarean. Hi Usha, hi. So give me some time to still adjust my phone. I'm still adjusting it. Yeah, Usha, I will definitely come and address these points. These are important points and I will be covering them. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join in, and then of course I go ahead. We were a bit late, but I think we are good to go. Hello everyone, please do drop a hi. I'm thankful that you do keep coming to my lives and you watch it, and you make it a point to be here. Do drop a hi, do drop your questions. If I'm able to address your questions, if I'm able to cover the length of the questions as well as the answers during this period of life, then I will definitely go ahead and answer those questions. Some of the questions could be detailed in nature and might require detailed exploration, and hi Munishji, hi, might require detailed exploration, and wherever detailed exploration is required, I won't be answering in detail, but yes, you can always ask me by you can drop me a text, you can drop me an email. If you want to have a personal consultation, you can ask me for that, but yes, I probably will be answering in the adequate, briefest manner possible, okay? So yes, hi Dimpy, I will be speaking about children who are born Caesarean. If we are born Caesarean, then maybe it could be about us, about other people who are around you, your relatives, your friends who are Caesarean born, and you will be able to see the kind of life patterns and life paths they have, okay? So starting off, so you see what happens is, here I'm talking about hi Meghna, here we are talking about non-labor Caesarean sections, okay? So you all know, and you are out there enough to know what Caesarean sections are, right? Again, just a little bit of history and trivia. The word Caesarean also comes from Caesar, because Caesar's mother had to be actually cut open to deliver him. Julius Caesar, I'm talking about Julius Caesar. So it comes from there, the word Caesarean. So I have gathered a few points so that I don't forget to mention the points that I do want to mention. You see, what happens is, while my topic here, and the reason I'm talking here is not to judge, condemn, or tell people to do or not do some things or certain things regarding delivery, regarding pregnancy. But my point here is simply to show that, well, this is what happens as a result of so and so. So as a result of cesarean, what are the different things that can happen is what my outlook is here. Not to condemn or to judge that people are doing it and people are not doing it. That is not my outlook here. Okay. So we all know that, usually when the baby is born on term, there is always like a 40-week from the last menstrual period, right? So by the time the baby is born, the baby is at its around 38 week, right? Why 40 week to 38 week? Why? Because up until 2 weeks fertilization of the egg also doesn't happen. So after 2 weeks, until 2 weeks fertilization of the egg happens, and then of course 38 weeks plus, and that's when the baby is term, right? Now what happens is in cesarean, there is always a risk of having a late preterm child. Okay. So whenever a late preterm child is born, there could be real practical medical difficulties like jaundice. There could be trouble breastfeeding. The child may have trouble breathing. There might be difficulty in maintaining body temperature of the child. These are medical concerns. There are true concerns that we do have. Apart from this, we all know that in cesarean section there is always a possibility, and I'm not saying that this is everywhere, because there are different variations, methods, ambient temperature, as well as different clinics and hospitals that have different mode of action. But it has been seen even in the past commonly that there is an occurrence of bleeding. There could be bleeding involved. There could be, of course, infection involved. Reaction to medication is very common with antibiotics. Blood clots form and then difficulty around removing them, as well as possible injuries can happen because of the surgical instruments, because of the forceps sometimes. So these are medical concerns which concern the mother and which also concerns the child, right? Now you all more or less know about these medical concerns. And I'm assuming that there are a lot of mothers here on the list watching me right now, as well as people who are born cesarean themselves. But my point of doing this live is to answer this larger question, or put it out, that what is it to walk on earth as a cesarean child. Now cesarean child also means that the initial journey that I undertake, I am in my mother's womb, and now I will move out of my mother's womb by my own will and with the help of my mother, and with both of our bodies in sync, mine and my mother's body in sync, I will move. And that is a journey I will make through my mother's uterine canal, right? However, what happens is that first journey, that initial journey, is stopped. Various reasons: labor not happening, intervention by rest of the people around me, doctors, nurses. I have had colleagues who happen to be medical doctors who also want to schedule their wife's delivery on a certain date, either because it's easy to do that or because that's astrologically viable, and they want to make them go through cesarean section just so that they are, let's say, they don't have to go through the whole series of experiences regarding labor. But you see, what you are doing, you are also interfering with the child's first journey that this child makes. In regression therapy, family constellations, complementary approaches of healing, what happens is that we look at this first journey as the first sign of success, that I move through, push through, get out, complete the journey, and then breathe in life. So it is the mark of the first successful event of our life. For a baby, for a child, for this little being who comes out of the mother's womb at that point of time, it's his or her first experience with success, of achievement. So what happens is we also cut that success, and the child feels that, okay, even if I have moved ahead, even if I have come to the last point from where now I will be able to go ahead in life, I can be interrupted, my success can be torn, my success can be questioned, and it can just abruptly end. And then people may just pull me out. So what I'm trying to say is, this finds reflection in various movements of our life. Many people tell me that, they are able to go 99%, and just before they reach 100, their journey comes to an abrupt ending, or they may have to return, or something happens, right? So people find it very difficult to make that movement where they are able to independently move forward, and at the last step they feel extremely unsupported and unable to make that last step, which is a reflection of moving out of the mother's womb, and there is an abruption. Even though that abruption is to bring the child out and help the child, but it is still an abruption to the natural flow. So the first success of the child is impacted and stopped. Now with that, what happens is, because there are doctors, because there are nurses, because there are people who are finally bringing the child out, okay, so as a result, what happens, there is always going to be an impression that the outside world is involved in my own business. Outside people are involved in my journey. Outside people also control my journey. That I can be affected by the world that is outside of me. So some of the Caesarean children also grow up to be fearful and insecure about the outside world, because the belief and the physical impression of being pulled out of the womb and others taking control of the journey is so much that what happens is they always feel that, okay, even if everything is going on well, I think outside people are out there to do something to me. I am not quite safe. It's outside people who control my life. So there is always feelings of insecurity, feelings of being controlled, feelings of being interfered, feelings of being interrupted, feelings of being invaded, feelings of being transgressed by the outside world. So what happens, the inner boundary of this child that it may have formed by its natural journey coming out of the mother's womb and forming its own body and posture is interrupted. And therefore, these children also sometimes find it very difficult to have proper boundaries in their life, because there is always this subconscious feeling that the outside world can influence me, outside world can control my actions, that I am not safe, that I within am not enough, and therefore I can be impacted by the forces outside of me, and that makes the child more vulnerable, and hence the first hit to the formation of boundary of this child happens at that level. Okay. Now one important thing is, we know that nowadays, at least as in the medical fraternity, we understand that there can be different kind of anesthesia, like epidural is there, there is also local. But yes, in the last, let's say 2 decades, more than 2 decades, we have seen that people use general anesthesia, and now in most places where cesarean section happens, apart from because again people are delivering children, on an everyday basis, and it's a known fact, right? So we do not have a huge number of places where there are specialized forms of anesthesia that is being delivered, but only, of course, general anesthesia which is given. So what happens as a result is the anesthesia also blocks the relationship of the mother which it is forming with the child, because the relationship is of the labor pain by which she feels the child, and she feels the contraction as well as the relaxation of her womb, and the baby also moves along with the contraction and relaxation of the womb. What anesthesia does is it disconnects. This is the first element of disconnection between the mother and the child, and then it becomes heavier around the womb, heavier around the uterus, heavier around the vagina, heavier around the head of the child, right? That's where all the heaviness settles in, and this forms like a heavy disconnection with the mother. And the more there is disconnection, the more there is heaviness, the more the child goes into a sense of withdrawal, a sense of loneliness, a sense of being unsupported, a sense of, say, being unloved, because there is distance building up. And even if you may not believe me, in my sessions, I have still encountered people in their 40s who regress back to their mother's womb and complain of a heaviness in their head. And when we try and go into the heaviness, we understand that it is chemical in nature. But then at the same point of time, there are different experiences of different people. This is what the one that I am telling you is a more generic experiences, because mind you, as I said, that there are different variations in C-sections, methods, ambient tonality, room temperature, hospital atmosphere, people who are dealing with it, right? So there is a variation of also symptoms and experiences. Anyway, coming to the point where I'm talking about anesthesia, that this forms the first block between the mother and the child, and there is a slow breaking, a heavy breaking of the bond of the mother and the child, because the mother's consciousness now begins to float away, and she falls into a state of alternative consciousness, or unconscious if you call it, and the baby continues to feel the heaviness and a sense of disconnection with the mother, for which it senses its first interaction with being unsafe. Okay. Now, while I am unsafe, now imagine I already feel unsafe because there is a layer, a cloud of heaviness around me. And then what happens? Let's say you are right now sitting and watching it, and you're feeling a cloud of heaviness which blocks your head, and suddenly your doors fling open and people come with big forceps and then put on you, and then they pull you out. How would you feel? Pull you out of your own house where you have lived for the last 9 months. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel invaded. You're going to feel, pulled out. You're going to feel angry, helpless, victim, not able to do anything, given to it. On top of that, those people are telling you that, hey, listen, we are pulling you out of your house, but we are doing it for your good. Because if you live in this house, then this house is not going to support you. So we are pulling you out, and we are doing it to help you. So even if they happen to be my helpers and people who have come to my assistance, but the way they are doing it to me is transgressive, is invasive by nature. It brings in helplessness, anger towards them, and there is this primal shock that the baby goes through. Finally, when the child is pulled out of its mother's womb, it's abruptly taken out. What happens is the child goes through its first shock. I am feeling unsafe, because of the heaviness around me, and then on top of that there is shock. Now there is more shock because the cutting of the umbilical cord is also abrupt, and because of which what happens is the connection which I had built with my mother and the initial connection which I went through and developed it over a long period of time is suddenly cut. And even though I am breathing in life, because up until then all nutrients were coming to me through the umbilical cord, right, everything from my mother, suddenly when it's cut and I breathe in, even if I'm breathing in life, that's a shock. So the body always registers that to breathe in life is a shock. Okay? And therefore you will observe that many of us have shallow breathing. We breathe till here. We don't breathe till here, right? We don't breathe down to our stomach. We don't breathe where our umbilical cord was placed, where we were connected to our mother. We don't breathe in there. Do that with me. Feel the umbilical cord for once. Feel your navel. Because we all carry, many of us carry this fear that to breathe in life is going to be a shock. Because the body experienced shock with its first breath. And to breathe in life would also mean disconnection from my mother. Because the event that happened before I breathed in life was my disconnection with my mother. Isn't it? So that's what happened. And therefore, I continue to feel disconnected. My sense of boundary is blurred. And my understanding of love, which I was building over the last 9 months, and by understanding I don't mean intellectual understanding. By understanding I mean the energetic association I had developed with my mother, which is my first understanding of love, my first foundation of love, is compromised and met with a shock. So I will always feel that whenever there is love, it's going to end up in exhaustion. And whenever exhaustion happens, maybe that's when I will open up. So my relationships in the world are also going to be like that, where, well, I may have relationships, but they may come to abrupt ending. I may find it very difficult to maintain boundaries in my relationships because, of course, my boundaries were compromised. Someone had pulled me out. I also continue to feel that if I am in a loving, safe relationship, it can always be unsafe because the outside world can interfere and the outside world can, control my relationship with so and so. That this deep connection that I share with this person can at any moment of time be cut and met with a shock. Okay, so Kanya, you're saying that, oh wow, me and my family always worried about my shallow breathing, thinking something's wrong with my lungs. So one of the easiest exercise to help this is to close your eyes and breathe deeply down your navel and take some time, take 5 minutes as you put your hand on your navel and begin to feel the formation of the umbilical cord back to your mother. Remembering a time that before you came out of your mother's womb, you were within her, deeply connected to her. In those 9 months, 8 months or 7 months, there was at least 1, 2 or 3 or maybe more good experiences where you felt safe with your mother. So you simply have to non-intellectually breathe deep down to your umbilicus, visualize being with your mother and feel that the energetic impression of the umbilical cord still remains. That's something, that's an exercise that you can always do in order to form the connection back again. Okay, by breathing deep into your umbilicus, closing your eyes and forming the connection with your mother and visualizing being with your mother in the safety. Now coming back to the shock, because of the shock which I mentioned already, there is shallow breathing as we discussed. There is also a lot of fear, because of course there is intervention coming from outside. There is light, there is a sudden pulling out, there's sudden taking away. So everything is so fast and abrupt. So what happens when there is fast and abrupt? So you have been in the comfort of the womb, and now everything is very fast and abrupt. So what happens is the body also goes into flight and fight. For example, the body learns that, okay, I must hold it tight because something is going to come. So I must be on guard. That's how the body feels, right? And that tension, that guarding tension in the body remains. And later in life also, it can manifest in different forms, many forms. Shallow breathing might lead to respiratory difficulties. Tension in the body may lead to musculoskeletal problems. Someone may end up having issues like fibromyalgia. People may simply have a lot of pain and inflammation in their body. People may have a propensity to get hurt and get wounded all the time. Some people may also end up having digestive issue because the core is compromised. The digestion is here. That the solar chakra is placed here, and the solar is the core, and the core might be compromised as a result of so much of fear around, right? So people are more prone to diseases and illnesses that are born out of stress, because everything feels stressful. Outside world, whatever is concerned with the outside world, feels really, really stressful, because the inner movement of moving out of the mother's womb is not there, is absent. Okay. Now there are certain cases, in fact a lot of cases, where children after being born or delivered in this manner are taken to the nursery or the incubator. Some children may end up having neonatal jaundice. Some people end up having breathing difficulties at the moment they are born, and that is also because the association with the mother is immediately broken. But when they are taken to the nurseries and when they are taken to the incubator and kept away from the mother, this child experiences a deep breaking in its bond with its mother further. And this time the break is greater, because there was shock, then there was pulling out, then there was aggression, fear, body going into fight and flight mode, tension building up in the body. On top of that, now there is separation. And when the separation happens, that's when helplessness sets in. Because I can't fight anymore. I have fought so much. I cannot. And you will observe that in such cases, children will be more prone, even in their later life, to depression or to anxiety. There will always be not only fear of separation, but also intense feelings of isolation and intense feelings of no one being around, no one being there, which over a period of time turns into an emptiness, a void that this child is going to feel. So even in later life, if parents are present and mother is there and father is there and everyone is there, the child still continues to carry that initial separation. Because please understand that every experience is actually stored in the body. It's not stored in the mind. It's not stored anywhere else. It is stored in your body, in your cellular memory, right? So the body keeps on reminding that this is what you carry. And then over a period of time, it keeps on manifesting in different ways. So yes, depression is very, very, very common in such cases. And we do have more and more cases of depression, but we do not try and connect them to the birth procedure of the child, right? Because that's not an area we see. our approach to clinical issues is more individualistic in nature. We do not have a more integrated approach. It is not anyone's fault, but that is how the world has grown. But now we are also making a movement towards looking at these issues from a more holistic standpoint, right? So I spoke about anesthesia. I spoke about, the mother being cut open, because of which the child feels immediately disconnected, and because of which, even if one becomes an older person, one grows up, they still continue to feel the separation anxiety later, and they will repeat and replicate the separation anxiety in their close relationship, be with their wife, be with their husband. They will repeat and replicate it, because that's how they have learned, and the first experience is that. Okay, so I spoke about abrupt and cutting of the umbilical cord and pulling out. All of this also leads to another greater metaphysical reality, by the way. Anesthesia, which causes heaviness and as well as disconnection. Cutting opening the mother, which causes the first disconnection with the mother of the child, Abrupt cutting of the umbilical cord, which causes a shock and breathing in life, and breathing in life itself feels shocking. Or being pulled out, of course, feels absolutely helpless and as well as angry. So people reel under helplessness and anger. But one other greater truth is, during this episode, because of the stress that the body goes through, a lot of different traumatic and suffering past lives, meaning previous lifetimes, can also get activated. Maybe by anesthesia, someone's past life of being heavy in the head, where they got hurt in the head and they died with a great amount of heaviness in the head, might get activated. Later in life, I'm giving an example only, okay? Later in life, maybe it can manifest as a migraine, or as, constantly feeling dizzy, right? Similarly, when the mother is being, the incision happens and the mother is literally cut open and the child is brought out, what may happen is the child automatically feels a separation with the mother, and past lives where it has always been separated from the mother may also wake up, and it may never be able to form a connection with the mother, or also may end up having trust issues with the mother, even if the mother loves the child a lot. Okay. Similarly, abrupt cutting of the umbilical cord, where breathing in life is an issue or is a shock, may mean that suddenly people may end up having activation of past lives where maybe they died in sea, maybe they died in drowning, maybe they died because their life was abruptly ended, maybe they died of beheading. So all these different kinds of lifetimes may awaken. Okay. Similarly, being pulled out may also activate lives where people were publicly shamed, humiliated, beaten up, beaten to death, and controlled. All those different past lives can definitely awaken during these different stressful periods and experiences. So here is a question: what about birth, where the mother is conscious but under epidural? But we have to, that's what I said in the beginning of this talk, that yes, there are different kinds of anesthesia. So even if the mother is conscious, we also have to understand that the area where the anesthesia is being delivered, that area has a pool of anesthesia, has a pool of chemical consciousness, where the child still feels disconnected from the mother. So I am connected to my body up until here. From here, I am not connected to my body, and because I am not connected to my body, my child, who is in a way connected to me, is still feeling the heaviness of the chemical that surrounds in a pool. Okay, because anesthesia always has a pooling effect. I hope I have answered your question, Sheena. So what are the different belief systems that these children will grow up and carry? So one of the major belief system that these children will carry is, I can go ahead in life and make a journey, but I can never complete it, because the first journey that I went ahead and I made could never be completed. So I will always need external help, or I will never be able to complete it, or I cannot even trust the outside world to help me, because when they come to help me, it's so painful to seek that help. Make sense? And therefore, another belief system is outside world is always stronger than I am. So I am weak. As much as I may try, outside world is always going to interfere. They are always going to be stronger than I am. Right? So there is a sense of insecurity that people can harm me, that anyone can come and do anything to me. Isn't it? So the third belief system is, even if I'm safe, I'm actually unsafe. So I might be in the safety of a beautiful relationship. I might be in the safety of a beautiful house. I might be in the safety of a beautiful business. I can still be pulled out, plugged out. My relationship can still end abruptly. My house may abruptly crumble. My business might be abruptly overtaken by someone. Okay? So that kind of movement exists almost everywhere. Fourthly, and most commonly, is I cannot trust. And therefore, sometimes such children also end up having a love-hate relationship with their mother. So while they respond to the love of the mother as they move in life, as they go ahead in life, but they also remain angry with their mother for the initial separation that it caused them. So every time the mother comes and embraces them and hugs them, they feel a certain sense of tightness in their body. Because to embrace and have and receive that love also means submitting yourself to tension and shock. Okay? So what about, there's a question, what about children who were induced at full term? Okay? Even then, there is an interaction of the outside world which is involved. So as I mentioned earlier also, if you watch this video from the very beginning of this video, you will understand that different people have different experiences. What I am talking about is a generic experience which can be observed over a spectrum of people, because there are many people who have gone through cesarean section, and one may exhibit one symptom while the other person may not exhibit that symptom. But this is a general list of symptoms and belief systems and the kind of life pattern that people have. Okay. So the next was, of course, as I said, that there is a sense of longing for the mother. There's love as well as there is anger at the same time, because the first separation had happened, and now the child, even though the child is open to receiving that love, also feels quite angry, and the body tenses in while receiving that love, because to receive that love also means life. And such children may find it difficult to embrace life in its wholeness, to live a full life in the most simplest of language. Okay. We also need to know that when finally the child is pulled out and the child is delivered, the child also goes to a sense of defeat and lack of support. So such children may also feel very vulnerable and weak and defeated later in life. Okay. So and hence a feeling of homelessness. So please do remember that once again I'm saying that these symptoms are seen across different people throughout different experiences. So some people may experience, some people may not experience. Many people will have varied experience, some people may have combination. Okay. Now when a child goes through the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the mother's womb along with the contraction and relaxation of the uterus, it has a natural flow, speed and pace and rate at which the child is going to make that journey and move out of the mother's womb. While in a C-section, what happens, or in any intervention, what happens is that movement is altered. Everything is happening at a clinical pace. Everything is happening at a pace where things have to be done methodically, and there is abruption. For example, making that incision, pulling it out, cutting the umbilical cord, placing it aside, taking care of the mother by the doctors. Now someone else is holding this child. Perhaps the child needs to be taken to the incubator or the nursery. All of these steps are happening at a clinical, routine, technical phase, because of which the natural rhythm at which the flow was happening is not happening. So what happens, there is abrupt swings in positive and negative emotions, okay, of the child. So there was suddenly this feeling of safety, and there is no feeling of safety, and suddenly, someone is carrying me, as well as someone is also placing me, not with great love, but I can feel the sense of physicality because the doctor is holding me. So there is sudden swings of positive and negative emotions, because of which this swings of positive and negative emotions can be seen in different individuals, in a variety of individuals, as swings of positive and negative emotions within themselves. So such children also may feel that finally, when I return back from the incubator or from that nursery to my mother, that's when perhaps the next day or in the next hours or in the next few days, nourishment can finally happen. Please remember that this initial separation is the most important period of the child in developing a bond with the mother, as well as a breaking of the bond with the mother. And therefore, children may also grow up believing that nourishment can only happen when there is a lot of tension and poisoning by chemicals and suffering, or after all this suffering and poisoning and tension, I will be nourished. Before that, I can't be nourished. So a lot of these people will tell that we have to go through suffering in order to have the nectar of life, or to experience something goodness. So, and they may also repeat it in their life. They may also replicate it in their life by believing in it so much. Okay, so these are the different effects across this whole spectrum. They are not specified, as I said before. They can be generic, but these are seen in varying combinations. I do have question. Anupama S. Joshi has question. I'm going to answer your question. Can we consider C-section a type of difficult birthing which affects mental health of the child, which results issues like learning disabilities? Yes, of course it is, because the primary element which contributes to having a sound body and a connection with the mind, as I spoke in the very beginning, is first of all taking in life fully, breathing in life fully, to be able to accept life, making that first journey of success, and then having a bond with the mother, and all of those are compromised. So in feelings of being unsafe, shock, flight and fight mode, disconnection with the mother, different disabilities and different illnesses can manifest in different forms. So while depression and anxiety and separation and relationship issues are very commonly seen, learning disabilities can also be there, okay, because it is definitely going to compromise with the cognitive faculties of the child also. Another important medical point is because there is a lot of anesthesia involved, so it does interfere with the cognitive faculties and the developmental the organ development of the child also, and the brain development of the child also, because the pool of anesthesia remains therein. Second question I have, all doctors who push C-section when it can be avoided need to see this, even parents who consciously opt for C-section consciously. Thank you for saying that. It is important. So could we bring about resolution? Yes. Now coming to the resolution phase. Yes, we can bring about resolution. We can bring about resolution as a child. We can also bring about resolution as, let us say, a parent or a mother. Let us first of all see it as a child. So if you discover that you are a Caesarean child, the only exercise that you can begin with is the exercise which I gave in the middle of this live, where I spoke about, first of all, taking a stand or taking a position where you sit comfortably, and then you allow yourself to breathe into your umbilicus. Take some time to breathe in and allow the visualization of the formation of this umbilical cord with your mother, and with each breath as you take into your umbilicus, you imagine your deep, profound connection with your mother. So before the cesarean happened, before you are pulled out, before the shock, there was a time in mother's womb when to be with her felt safe. So your attitude and inner movement, and that can only be done by breathing, okay? Your attitude and inner movement has to be able to find that safe zone in your mother, within your mother, and finding that primal connection. It doesn't matter whether in today's time your mother happens to be alive or deceased. This movement of finding your connection back to your mother's womb and feeling that safety over a period of time has to be an inner movement and not an outside movement. So it does not matter how is your relationship with your mother, how she speaks to you, how you speak to her. This whole attitude of breathing in and feeling the umbilical cord, going into that safe zone, has to be an inner movement. It has to happen within you. Okay? That is something that you can do as a child, and it has to be practiced over a period of time. There is no hard and fixed rule that, okay, I have to do it for 7 days, 21 days, 30 days. Do it over a period of time. It is hardly going to take you 5 minutes to find that deep inner connection. And as mothers, what you can do is you can once in a while always allow your child, even if your child is big enough. I have had situations and cases where I have worked on it, and although it involves a huge, long, complex procedure, one of the simplest movement within the procedure is for the child, even if the child is today 33 years old, 35 years old, 40 years old, and if the mother happens to be there, I let the child crawl up like the fetus, and then I let the mother come from behind and hold the child, and I simply allow them to breathe in rhythmically and let the first relaxation and contraction waves settle in both their bodies. Okay, I make them do. Some people, of course, they feel embarrassment, they don't want to do it, but as people are willing, and if people are willing, it might be a very good idea. Some children, of course, wouldn't want to do it, I understand, but then if they are willing, then it might be a very nice idea to for the mother and the child in the fetal position, and the mother holding the child while lying down or in any other position, and breathing in along with the child, so that there is a moment where both the breathing of the child as the mother begins the same relaxation and contraction that was initially there, and then the bond between the mother and the child is reconnected and re-established. However, in regression therapy and in family constellations, there are different ways by which we find resolution between the child and the mother. We find resolution sometimes when we figure out that a man or a woman in their 30s or in their 40s are going through a certain kind of issue which is heavily connected to their birthing experience, and then we go back to reliving those birthing experiences and find reconnection with the mother. Okay. Similarly, for a parent also, they might be carrying certain trauma, and they may find it very difficult to let go of their child even if the child has grown into an adult, because they went through a traumatic experience with their child, and the child may feel heavily burdened in their life even if they have become adults. And so we do make them go through sessions and procedures by which they can also trust the child and allow the child to move ahead in life and embrace their adulthood. So there are different kinds of procedures in regression therapy as well as in family constellation work, where we amalgamate and combine, and we try to heal these broken bonds as well as the trauma and the experience of having gone through a difficult birthing experience. If any of one of you wants to work on it, you can always DM me, let me know, or email me. You can comment on this group, text me on Facebook. You also know my number. You can always WhatsApp me, or if anyone of you wants to understand these experiences better and be a part of our training, you can always write to me and tell me. Okay, So I believe I'm done with today's live, and I don't have any more questions. I have answered almost all questions. So I'm going to end the live here, and I truly hope you all liked it. Just browsing through the comments and the questions. Do drop a comment on how you found it, how you liked it, and if it made sense to you. I would be grateful. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.